Welcome to Tabletop Gaming with Juice. Tonight, I killed a player character in the first 5 minutes of the session. And that's it. No. So I killed him, and there's a little bit of a story behind it. What happened was I have a player, and he's been with us since the start of this campaign. It was his first time playing D&D, and he just didn't enjoy it that much. I think he was probably playing the wrong character. And I think that his attention span, he's more of a video gamer. And he played, I think, 2 times. First time he said he had a blast. Was really excited. Second time he seemed a little bored, but he was also like he had just gotten back with his girlfriend. That was 3 months ago. And was texting her a lot during the game, and I asked him not to text her during the game. So I think that put him off a little. Because he was distracted. He was playing a wizard, didn't know what spells to do on his turn, really just wasn't in it because he was too busy texting the whole time. And yeah, so it was what it was, but he didn't show up to the last game that we played. I can't remember why exactly at this point, but he didn't show up to that. And then tonight, what happened was this week, about a week and a half ago, I was trying to set it up with the other gaming group I have, and they couldn't do it. 2 of the players that I thought were too important to it couldn't be there. And so I decided not to run it for that group, and I asked everyone for the group that I ended up running for tonight if they could make it. And the guy whose first game was the last session, and this one I have no problems with. He's actually going through a divorce, but he said he could make it. And then the guy who ended up not showing tonight said he could make it. So we're supposed to have everyone except for 1 player tonight. Well, Thursday rolled around, and my one friend said that he thought we were talking about next weekend. So I knew a couple days ago he couldn't make it. So I was down to 2 outside players and my wife. So 3 of our 5. And I made the decision that, hey, let's still play. We haven't played in a little bit, and we'll try and play again next weekend. And that's what we were going to do. Well, apparently the other day, the kid this is his first campaign, told the player who did end up making it tonight that he thought this was going to be his last game because he wants his Fridays and Saturdays open so he can go play Pokemon Go and go to parties. That's what he said. So then we're supposed to play at 6 tonight. I sent a text at about 5 saying, hey, don't forget to bring your dice and your books, because a lot of times my players forget their dice and their books. And in fact, my player who showed up tonight forgot his dice. But anyways, so in fact, I've had players forget their character sheets. So anyways, he at 5:15 told me, and I'm going to say it, the exact quote. He wrote a question, be there at 6 question? And I said, yeah. He said, so I forgot about tonight and I'm skateboarding. I don't think I'll be able to make it tonight. Sorry. And then I asked him how he forgot when I've reminded him every day in the last 3 days. After I sent that, I heard from the other player, hey, he told me he wasn't really that going to be able to play. He's not that interested. He'd rather play Pokemon Go and go to parties. And then I get this text from the kid who wasn't going to show up. I woke up this morning and all I was thinking about was skateboarding. I'm sorry. So then I just told him if you weren't interested, all you had to do was say so. You don't need to make excuses. And I told him he's an adult now. Now he is 19, and I work with him, so I'm going to see him and, all that stuff. But yeah, like I bought him a book and dice and stuff like that because he said he really liked it and could see himself playing it for a long time. So I bought the stuff for him. Anyways, so I guess I'm just bothered by the fact that it was the last second. If you would have told me this morning or yesterday, I could have at least canceled the game session and it would have been fine. But I planned my whole weekend around it. Like we went and did something yesterday that we probably would have done today instead on a normal, normal situation, normal instance. And then tomorrow I'm doing some stuff around the office to try and get this room set up as my full-on, crafting room, office, RPG prep stuff, all sorts of stuff. And then planning on getting the other room started going towards the direction that'll be my wife's office. So yeah, just was irritated by it, I guess, more than anything. So ended up, we started the session, and his character was not a half. His character was a gnome, rock gnome, and he was a wizard. Now, in the first place, I think the character should have made a fighter gone Eldritch Knight, in my opinion, because he wanted to do magic, but he wanted to be able to do some like combat stuff and like martial stuff, and he could have still done it how he wanted, but he was listening to another guy from my other campaign talk to him about what he should make, and so I think that hampered him a little bit, because I think he would have had more fun playing the other type of character based on what he said his preferences were. So anyways, so they started the session exiting a small cave, and they saw across the way a large lizard, okay, like large enough to swallow the whole party whole, okay, and it was sleeping. Now, they knew that this lizard was what the city above was sacrificing people to while they were sleeping. Like, they would kidnap people in the tavern and sacrifice them to this giant lizard. So the players had a couple options. They could go and attack, they can go leave, try to go in and loot this lizard's treasure hoard if it had any. I didn't plan for that, but because they knew this character or this player wasn't going to be joining us anymore, they said, well, why don't we send his character in? So they took all his stuff except for his magic staff, and he tried to go into the cave. He rolled a stealth check, and basically what I did is I had the lizard roll over and had him make a dex save. And I think I set it low. Like, I think I was thinking to myself a 10, and he rolled like a 6. And so it rolled over on top of him, and I just said, okay, he's dead. Give me the character sheet. And that was it. Nothing special. I mean, they got his loot, his magic items, but yeah. So anyways, he was dead. So anyways, the character started traveling. They decided to go north to take an NPC they had found back to the elven city of Nelenahill. And as they were traveling through the mountains, they ran into some goblins. Yeah, in fact, I have my notes right here. I should pull them up. It'll help me out a little better. They ran into goblins. They actually ran into quite a few of them. And here's my notes. There we go. So they ran into approximately 16 goblins. Actually, they ran in, 16 goblins. A couple of them, 3 of them, in fact, were on dogs. And they pretty much killed them all. They slaughtered them. Now, I did beef up the goblins a little bit. They weren't your typical goblins. They were a hunting party that was a little bit stronger than normal. And the goblins who had been working with the cultist at the city, Isben, which was sacrificing them, there was a wave of cultists who came out that actually one of the goblins on a dog went and retrieved. Actually, it was a goblin not on a dog. Went, got them, was given a dog, and came back on a dog. And so it was maybe 2 hours after the initial combat, that goblin brought the cultists back to attack. And so they killed 9 cultists who were speaking in Draconic. Now, what the players basically found out is these cultists are from the Cult of the Dragon. Inspiration taken from Horde of the Dragon Queen. And you guys probably heard me talk about my other campaign where I was talking about necromancers and the cult of the dragon and different elemental cults, all making up the 8 pillars of death. And the idea was that all of these cults decided to work together to take over this continent and eventually the world. The idea was if they took over the continent, they'd section it off for each people to do their thing. And all of them had like even ideas to turn on each other at some point. But basically they wanted to narrow it down to just them first. But anyway, so the players found out these cultists served that. This takes place 80 years after that the original 8 Pillars of Death formed and almost took over the continent. So anyways, they killed them, found out the 8 Pillars of Death are still trying to form and regain their strength, but they're coming basically. And this is the Cult of the Dragon. So they took they have necklaces. They took all the Cult of the Dragon necklaces so that they could kind of blend in a little if they ever had to in the future. And kept traveling with their NPC guy with a broken shoulder, which I also ruled magic can't heal his broken bone, but it can definitely make it so he can't die. He can't suffer any further bleeding damage and things like that, but his bone is still broken. That way they could use this badass NPC, and he just still isn't he's good, but he's not as good as he could be, kind of thing. And they still have to protect him because his hit points are lower. So then we divided some treasure, or actually at the beginning they divided some treasure. And like I said, this was just the one player showed up and then my wife and myself instead of our normal 5-player group. So, but anyway, so they then rested again as they traveled further because they're traveling through mountains. I had to make some athletics checks for climbing and things like that. And they made them all. And in the morning, they fought a boulette land shark and actually beat it pretty handily between them. Now, what I did is I had the one NPC that was traveling with them wasn't fighting at all. He was just trying to stay back from everything. And I let each player control one of the players who wasn't there, just for combat purposes, not RP. I did all the out-of-combat RPing for them. And it kind of allowed me to steer some things without telling them, oh, you have to do this. But I had intentions of running 3 pages worth of notes. 3. And I ran about a page and a paragraph. Now, I had a lot of fun. I think they had fun, and we're looking at possibly playing again next week. I only had a couple more things really planned, but the meat of it was going to come at the end. And I got them to a point where they're right before another good combat. And I say good combat because there's a lot of things to kind of discover if they want to. They're going to find a series of caves with different things, and I'm taking the inspiration from the Caves of Chaos. So they have a chance to discover some things there if they want to. Or they can keep traveling. And if they keep traveling, they're going to find a city that basically they, didn't know it was still around. And it's going to be a bunch of dwarves. And the dwarves are a little bit apprehensive to partner with people due to their history. But that's what I have planned for the whole next session now. I don't think it'll be a problem. I love it when I have enough prep to get me through multiple sessions. So that's it for my little recap video, though. There was some interesting stuff that I think if we had a bigger group, it would have been more fun. And I know next week we'll be able to have 4 players instead of just 2. So I think that'll add a lot to it, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So anyways, have you guys ever had a player no-show and just a few minutes before game time, and how did you feel? What'd you do about it? Would it have been different if you found out that they weren't interested in coming anymore because they'd rather party and play Pokemon Go. That ticked me off, to hear that, because he could have told me. And I would have said, okay, I have no problem if you have other preferences. Just be honest. You should always just be honest with your game masters and stuff. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. But I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks.